Welcome back, friends. Today we are going to have a discussion on the biochemistry of water. Kwenye kipindi kilichopita tulikuwa tunamalizia protein na kipindi hiki tunaanza kudiscuss kuhusu water properties zake pamoja na faida zake. Ina faida gani katika body? So water is most abundant, typically making up between 60 to 95% of the flesh mass of organism. Kwenye growth ya form 6 huwa tunasoma kuna kitu kinaitwa dry mass na kuna flesh mass. Dry mass ni ile mass ya organism inayobakia endapo water yote na kila liquid tukiwa tumezikausha. Kwa hiyo dry mass ni uzito wa mtu excluding water and other liquid components. Lakini flesh mass, that means ni ule uzito ambao tunachukua dry mass, yani flesh mass ni uzito wa kiumbe akiwa yuko high. Unaona? So 60% to 95% of flesh mass of an organism is occupied by water. Organic molecules of the cell, many in turn from even simple. Organic molecules of the cell, many in turn from even simple in organic molecules, notably carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and water. So organic molecule of the cell, many in turn, they are made from simple molecules. Zinatengenezwa kutoka katika simple molecules. For example, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and water. For example, tunapozungumzia carbohydrate, tunapozungumzia different proteins, they are made up from water. Water is one among the constituents in a lot of processes occurring in the plants and the animal bodies. Unaona? So hii water inakuwa na uwezo wa perform variety of functions na pia ina uwezo wa kutumika maeneo mbalimbali because of its properties, kwa sababu ya tabia ambazo inazo. Now let's discuss regarding the chemical and the physical properties of water. Water ina tabia gani hasa ambazo zinaifanya iweze kuperform different functions? Kwanza ni polarity. Water is the polar molecule. Tunaposema polar molecule manake ni ina kitu tunachokiita uneven au unequal charge distribution. Manake upande mmoja unakuwa na partial negative, upande mwingine na partial positive. Polarity is an even charge distribution within a molecule. In water, one pole is slightly positive and the other slightly negative due to high electronegativity of oxygen compared to hydrogen. So oxygen will be slightly negative because it will attract electron towards itself. Now hydrogen will be slightly positive because the electrons will be attracted towards oxygen. Because hydrogen will be depleted of electrons. And thus, since it is depleted of electrons, it will be slightly positive. Kwa hiyo hicho ndicho ambacho kitatokea. Oxygen itakuwa slightly negative na hydrogen itakuwa slightly positive. The reason behind is because electrons ambazo negative charge will be pulled away from hydrogen. Nadhani umesoma katika general chemistry polar covalent bonds. Hii ni mfano wake wa polar covalent bond. So this is known as a dipole, a molecule with two poles, ya negative pole and positive pole, inaitwa dipole. Unaona? And this dipole enable water to form hydrogen bond, ambayo hydrogen bond tutaenda kuisoma hapo mbele. Inasababisha water iwe na properties mbalimbali nyinginezo. Lakini the second property of water is cohesive force. Cohesive force au attractive force. Cohesive force or attractive force, kama ambavyo unafahamu kwenye physics kwamba this is the force of attraction between molecules of the same substance. Cohesive force is the force of attraction between molecules of the same substance. So water molecules have a weak attraction for each other with opposite charges coming together and causing them to behave as if they were stick like a magnet. So this is one water molecule. Unaweza kuiona this no, I'm sorry, nimechora vibaya. I'm sorry. Hii ni one water molecule. This is one water molecule, and then ime bond to another water molecule. Again, hapa kuna bonds hapa zenye dot. This is another water molecule. Unaona hii imebond kuja huku chini, imebond kuja huku chini, lakini tokea hapo hapa kuna another water molecule, bond kuna. Kwa hiyo a water molecule, between the water molecule there are bonds. Unaona pia hapa kuna bond ambayo inaelekezwa. Kwa hiyo kati ya water molecule kuna hizo bond. Hizo bond zinaitwa hydrogen bond. Hizo bond zenye dot hapo zote jina lake kamili zinaitwa hydrogen bonds. So hydrogen bonds, they are very important when we are discussing regarding the properties of water. Now we're going to discuss properties of water. So note that cohesive force is the force of attraction between the same molecules of the same substance. This enables the rapid movement of water molecule in a plant, and translocation of water through xylem. That's because of the cohesive force or because of the hydrogen bond ambayo inatengenezwa hapa. Ya tatu ni solvent property, which is the physical property, solvent property. Water is an excellent solvent for polar substances. These include ionic substances like salt and some non-ionic substances like sugar that contain polar groups, and slightly charged groups such as a hydroxyl group. On contact with water, the ions and the polar groups are surrounded by water molecules, which separates or dissociate the ions or molecule from each other. This is what happens when a substance dissolves in water. So when a substance dissolves in water, it's because the substance tend to dissociate in water, au the substance inakuwa ime lose water. Unaona, this also increases the reactivity of various ions, unaona, since they move freely. Thus majority of cells chemical reactions take place in aqueous solution. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu katika aqueous solution zina exist katika ions ambazo zenyewe zinakuwa zinafanya reaction itoke fast. Also, water acts as the transport medium, as in blood, lymphatics and excretory system, the alimentary canal, and in xylem and the phloem due to the solvent property. Kwa ina act kama transport medium katika blood pamoja na lymphatics pamoja na excretory system, katika alimentary canal, katika xylem na katika phloem. Unaona, namba 4 ni high specific heat capacity, high heat specific heat capacity. Unaona hii heat ya mwishoni haipo. Specific heat capacity kuwa kubwa inasaidia water katika evaporation. Heat capacity, the amount of water required to raise the temperature of 1 kg of water by 1 degree Celsius. Water has a high heat capacity. Thus a large increase in heat energy is at in relatively small rise in temperature. Now why so? This is because much of the energy is used in breaking the hydrogen bonds, which restrict the movement of water molecules. Biochemical processes therefore operate over a small temperature range, proceeding at more constant rates and are less likely to be inhibited by extremely of temperature. Kwa hiyo biochemical process nyingi zinakuwa kwenye water, they are not affected by rise in temperature because water inapunguza temperature rise sio kubwa. Namba 5, high heat of vaporization. Latent heat of vaporization inaitwa muda mwingine latent heat of vaporization. So is the measure of heat energy required to vaporize a liquid. Ni ile heat energy inayotakiwa kuvaporize liquid. High latent heat of vaporization is due to hydrogen bonding. Ni kwa sababu hydrogen bonding. The energy transferred to water molecule to allow them to vaporize result in a loss of energy to the air surrounding. That is cooling takes place. Hii ni muhimu sana katika kupoteza jasho na kulose joto kutoka kwenye mwili. This is made use in sweating and panting on a mammal. large amount of heat energy will be lost. Tutapoteza heat energy kubwa, lakini maji tutakuwa hatujapoteza. So large amount of heat energy will be lost. Large amount of heat energy will be lost with the water through sweating, panting, and the opening of mouth of some reptiles. Hence, cooling effect of the body with minimum loss of water from the body. Because this is very important. Tunakuwa tumeupoza mwili kwa kiasi kikubwa, tumesababisha loss ya temperature kubwa, lakini maji tuliyopoteza kutoka kwenye mwili ni machache. Number 6 is high heat of fusion. High heat of fusion. Hiyo ni katika kuganda. Is the measure of heat energy required to melt solid. In this case, ice. Katika kuganda na kuyeyuka, unaona. If in order to melt a piece of ice, high amount of heat is required to be absorbed. Also, liquid water must lose a relatively large amount of heat to freeze. Due to this property, content of the cell and the environments are therefore less likely to freeze. Unaona, contents of the cell and the environment are therefore less likely to freeze. Ice crystals are particularly damaging if they develop inside the cell. Unaona, ni hatari sana ikiwa ice zitakuwa ziko ndani ya cell, lakini haiwezekani kwa sababu ya high heat of fusion. Number 7, and the last property of water is the density and the freezing properties. Water ina property moja ya ajabu sana. The density of water decreases below 4 degrees Celsius and ice therefore tend to float. Hasa inapokuwa na float inasababisha organism wa kwenye aquatic, kwenye maeneo ya baridi waweze kusurvive chini ya visima. Water the only substance whose odor form is less denser than liquid form, who is upper solid form is less denser than liquid form. Since ice floats, it forms at the surface first and bottom last. If ponds flows from the bottom upwards, fresh water life could not exist in temperature or aquatic climates. Ice insulates the water below it, thus increasing the chances of survival of organisms in water. This is important in cold climates and cold seasons, and must have been particularly so in the past, such as during ice ages. Kwa hiyo